Welcome to Neo Royal, House of Pricey Cardboard. On today's episode, I'm doing a Decktech on my Vadrok Apex of Thunder list. It's been a while since I showcased the deck, and I figured this list turned out way better than everyone expected, so might as well share it with the world. If you want to see the deck in action, we have multiple episodes available on the channel. So I guess the first question is why Vadrok? Vadrok is not a commander you see often, so by default it's a bit more interesting. When Magda was released, I knew I wanted to play Dwarves. I also quickly understood that mono red Dwarves would not do it. I thought about playing boros for the Dwarves in Kaladesh, and then jeskai came to mind for the synergies with artifacts. At the start, Vadrok was very much a bonus tool in the command zone, to repeat a spell during the game or permanently animate a vehicle. And while the deck is still able to win without ever using its commander, some cards in the list evolved to empower this elemental dinosaur cat. The first power breakthrough for Vadrok was when we realized that it's just very good at casting Jeska's Will multiple times in a turn. Lord Drakis is currently my only other mutate card in the deck, and it serves a similar role, returning an instant or sorcery from my graveyard to my hand upon mutating. Jeska's Will makes red mana and costs red mana, how convenient. So you can mutate Vadrok, casting Jeska's Will with both mode, then mutate Drakis under Vadrok to get Jeska's Will number 2 for free, and then have the spell back in hand to cast a third time. If you have any way to bounce your mutate creature to hand, like Crystal Shard, you are in for a big turn. The shard can also be used to protect key creatures or punish tapped out opponents. As you will see later in the video, the deck runs multiple cards that triggers when you cast the sorcery, so it's value on top of value. In the introduction and thumbnail, we talked about Dwarves, so it's time to speak about Magda Brazen Outlaw. She's the hidden commander of the deck. The deck can win without her, but a lot of the cards in the list have been picked with her in mind as if she was always available. When playing a hidden commander, it pushes you to adapt your deck building a bit, because you don't have the commodity to start with a card in your command zone. Also, if something happens to Magda, well, you better have a plan. The main upside is, of course, to be able to play more colors. Magda allows you to sacrifice 5 treasures to get any dragon or artifact from your deck directly to the battlefield. You also get treasures whenever a dwarf becomes tapped, and other dwarves you control get +1/+0. There's a lot of easy combos you can do with Magda tutoring artifacts, but a fun way to do it is to go get Maskwood Nexus. Turning your whole deck into changelings, this allows for multiple things. Magda will create a treasure for every creature becoming tapped. Any creature in your deck is now a dragon for you to tutor, including a very well-known goblin named Dockside Extortionist, which makes treasures. See where I'm going? All your creatures are now humans, so no more mutating, which is the sad part. Scourge of Valkas will end game. Every creature entering the battlefield as a changeling will trigger the Scourge for the amount of creatures you have, because they are all dragons. It is then really easy to blast your opponent's life points away. You could technically run Dragon Tempest for redundancy, but you can't tutor it and the card doesn't do much without Maskwood, so I'm not sold yet. Shared Animosity will end games. I love this card. You just swing out for the win. A little hammer of Perforos at the end of the tutor chain will make sure that all your changelings are available for combat. I run Mirror Entity as both a Maskwood Nexus backup and a finisher, as it turns your creatures into changelings until end of turn. You can also dump your mana to have everything become 20/20s, and it is the dragon in your deck by default. Finally, to round up our Queen Fire-Breathing Lizards collection, Shimmer Dragon is the blue one. He allows us to tap our treasures to drop before sacrificing them to Magda, because yes, she does not ask you to tap them. Be careful with this draw however, because if everything is in your hand, well, you can tutor it out with Magda. I got my Magda altered by the very talented Clover Alters. It looks amazing, so be sure to check her out on Twitter or on the Spike feeders. For the ramp, Soul Ring, Boros Signet and Chromatic Lantern are your typical ramp artifacts. Sword of the Animus and Dowsing Dagger will trigger SRAM in addition. Don't underestimate Dowsing Dagger. If your friends are like mine with utility creatures, it's really easy to find one who won't block and then you get a Gilded Lotus early in the game. Lastly, Treasure Map, Storm the Vault and Smothering Tide will give you other means to create treasures. Storm the Vault flips into a banned card, so it's worth something. In the draw category, Ristic Study is the Smothering Tide equivalent, while Gift of Estate fixes your mana, and Velicute Awakening lets you basically mulligan mid-game. If you didn't notice, a lot of them can be cast with Vadrok from the graveyard in time of need. Jhoira, Stram, and Wellrun of top are cast triggers, so while you are doing the rest, they will provide card draw, very similar to Enchantress's strategies. Runeforged Champion is another dwarf from Khaldeim that cares about a cycle of runes. They all draw an ETB, which is pretty nice, and they can enchant non-creature permanents like vehicles. It's not the strongest card, but I think it fits well into the deck. I run only the blue and red one because lifelink is not as impactful as flying and haste. Imagine if the white one gave some kind of protection, would have been great. Cosima, God of the Voyage, will mostly be played as the Omen Kill, but if you really need the draw, well, it's an option. And lastly, in our draw section, Paradoxical Outcome is a draw spell that can protect you from board wipes. You can also return treasures to hand for some pretty solid card advantage. In charge of our little garage, Depala, Pilot Exemplar, and our assistant Veteran Motorist will take care of the machines. Depala is a lord in addition to providing some potential card advantage. It can be pretty good with Nexus and Play, just put all creatures to hand from the top X. The Motorist is a solid scry 2 for 2 mana on a dwarf. For the actual vehicles, you may remember our little outlaw requiring to tap creatures? Well, the crew ability can tap creatures through summoning sickness and at instant speed, so it's a perfect match. You can also crew the vehicles into their own ability once it's a creature. Usually doing so will be kind of a weird move, but in this deck it creates additional treasures with the Nexus on the board. Smuggler's Copter, the Omen Kill, and Untethered Express are all crew 1, so they can crew any creature by themselves. Copter is a great card selection tool at 2 mana, while Omen Kill can eat chunks of your opponent's deck if you have multiple vehicles. It should also secure your land drops. The Untethered Express is here because I can mutate Vadrok into it, and then I have a trained commander with flying, first strike, trample that gains a counter every time it attacks. It's amazing. The Weatherlight is a great source of card advantage, but at crew 3, you might need to use 2 creatures at a time. Not a big deal, honestly. It is also a big flavor win since we run jhoira in the deck. Cultivator's Caravan is both a vehicle and a mana rock. Great card. Peacewalker Colossus, Parhelion 2 are our big boys. Parhelion is better cheated out with Magda to go around the big CMC, while the Colossus can animate our garage if we're a bit short on creatures. Adding to the non-creature cast package, we run a couple of cards to help fill our board. Monastery Mentor, Kaikar Wind's Fury will create small tokens while Shark Typhoon makes Flying Shark, and I love them. In a regular EDH deck, Tutors are a way to find the best cards in the list. When you run a hidden commander, they are somewhat necessary to assure that you get to play said hidden commander. I like to run Tutors with restrictions or downsides so the play pattern does not repeat itself too much. I like variants in my commander games. Search for Glory, Imperial Recruiter, and Dwarven Recruiter are all here to search for Magda. They have other legal targets in the list in case you need something else or Magda is already in your hand. Modelo Mixture is a piece of interaction that can be transmuted to get the 2 mana Outlaw. Gamble is the last tutor I added recently. A bit more powerful, this card can get anything from your deck, but you have to discard one at random. It's not so bad with Vadrok since you can recast non-creatures from the grave if they cost 3 or less. If I want to power down the list a bit, this will be the one I cut. As we said earlier, we don't have the luxury of the command zone to protect Magda, so being able to bring her back is a big plus. Vadrok carrying about 3 CMC non-creature spells, the Sun Titan effects felt like a perfect fit. Teshar Ancestor's Apostle, Sun Titan, and Savine Reclamation. Restoration Specialist is a nice little dwarf that can get both an artifact and an enchantment from the grave, so it's very cost effective. This is one of the few ways the deck can get back the Maskwood Nexus from the grave since it costs 4. Gerard, Weatherlight Hero, fits the little team of the Weatherlight crew while providing protection. It's a bit of a dream scenario, but with Magda and Maskwood you could tutor him to the battlefield in reaction to a board wipe to save everyone. Another new powerful addition to the list is Underworld Breach. I don't run the wheels to really pop off with the card, but being able to recast anything from the grave is super powerful, and who am I to say no to a couple more Jeska's Will. Another powerful synergy the deck runs is Elsha of the Infinite and Sensei's Divining Top. With these 2 cards, you can essentially pay 1 mana to draw the top card of your deck. casting an artifact in the processes. It's a pretty well-known combo. If you can reduce the cost of top by 1, then you can draw your whole library. But we do not do this here, no, we are going into a more complicated path. Jeskai Ascendancy is very strong with vehicles and their crew mechanic. You can use your board to crew the whole garage, cast a non-creature spell, and untap everything to attack. It also pumps everything and lets you loot. So with these 3 pieces, every 1 mana I spend on top nets us a card and gives +1/+1 to the whole team. The final piece of the puzzle, you ask? Cultivator's Caravan. By being a mana rock and a creature, the caravan will be able to pay for the top and then untap due to the Ascendancy. If you don't want an infinite in your casual deck, just cut the top. The other pieces are more interesting together. The removal section is nothing out of the ordinary, a couple of counters, 2 board wipes, and confounding Conundrum because Conundrum freaking rocks. 2 more cards that don't fit anywhere in the categories are Antiquities War and Reality Scramble. The saga can pretty easily endgame if you have too many treasures on the table, turning them into 5/5 for an alpha strike. Reality Scramble is a way to turn too many lands into chaotic card advantage. Beside what the card does, it will also trigger all our cast effects for bonus value. Lastly, here is the mana base I'm running. My selection doesn't really matter honestly, as long as you get your colors go as you would like. I just went with what I had available. One thing to keep in mind is that you might need a bit more red than the other colors. And this was my Vadrok Apex of Thunder / Magda Brazen Outlaw deck. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you think of a nice card I forgot, tell me in the comments. I have multiple flexible slots in the deck so I could try it out. Take care my friend and we'll see you very soon.